All right, we're screen recording. For some reason, the projector is making the color all weird. But it's the content that matters, right?
Well, good morning. I'm Aaron Julian. You're in for a treat this morning. Robert Hernandez is here to speak. I saw Robert speak at the Online News Association meeting last fall on wearables, and it was a mind-expanding experience where I didn't think of news afterwards the same as I had thought of it before. So with that, I'll turn everything over to Hernandez. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Robert Hernandez, and it is truly, actually, a really honor to be here today. I'm going to tell you why, but thank you for having me join you guys in this conference today. This is not the first Publishers Association I was invited to give a talk. There was another one, and when they asked me what I was going to talk about, they uninvited me. So thank you for after telling the organizer what I was going to talk about, they said bring it. I expect a variety of different responses to what I'm going to talk about today. These are just some possible ones you might want to react to, you know, if you're looking for a model. But I do want to preemptively apologize. And according to the internet, that shade of blue is a very specific kind of calming color. So I'm sorry in advance if I offend someone or the whole room. We'll see how this goes. I want to tell you a little bit about my journey to get here. And I'm not talking about, you know, going from LA to here, although this is a picture I took when I was at the beach over the weekend. Don't hate me. This is a photo I took yesterday when I was walking around, and I don't think it's photoshopped. I think that's really happened. So I am Robert Hernandez. I am a digital journalism professor at USC. I've been there for 5 years. It's a really fantastic school. I don't think I would have made it in as a student, and I don't think they did a really good background check that allowed me to sneak into the faculty. But I'm the residential digital geek, the nerd there, and I play with a variety of different pieces of technology. And my job is to elevate the floor and expand the ceiling for our students when it comes to digital and modern journalism. I play with a variety of different pieces of technology. I'm on the board of the Online News Association. I'm a lifetime member of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. But what I do for journalism is I consider myself a mad scientist for journalism. I play with augmented reality. I talk about wearables. I have Google Glass, but I'm not a glass hole. We can talk about that. I've been dabbling with Arduino kits for censored journalism. I can't afford, but I'm trying to find a sugar daddy to buy me a drone so we can explore drone journalism. And another lesson is when a camera's recording, make sure you're not acting like a fool, but if you do, make an animated GIF out of it. That's what I embrace. I have some of the stuff I'm playing with right now. It's virtual reality, VR stuff, and we live in the future, and this is going to be part of our journalism relatively soon. I'm teaching a class in the fall about VR journalism. We can talk about that. But I really kind of, again, the journey to get here. Before I was a professor at USC, I was in newspapers. I was a newspaper reporter as an intern in the Yakima Herald Republic, but from the get-go in the late 90s, I was an online producer, a digital journalist, but working for newspapers, even one in Central America. Last one was Seattle Times, and doing digital journalism there. I even have one of my prized possessions is a newspaper rack, which used to be in my living room. Then I moved to LA in a much smaller, more expensive place. So now the newspaper rack is in my office, and students are like, "What is that?" It's the newspaper. I adore newspapers. It's the first piece of media that made us antisocial on public transportation, pre-phones. But I want to tell you a story on one of the reasons why I became a professor, and what is the reason what I'm going to talk about today. When I was at a newspaper, an academic came, and the newspaper rolled out the red carpet. The academic came and talked about web analytics. They brought out the publisher, they brought out the executive editor, the managing editor, the city editor. Everyone was required to go to this 2-day seminar about web analytics. I forgot my job title, senior editor for news for online there. Been trying 2 years to get 15 minutes to get my newsroom leadership to listen about these web analytics. And it occurred to me, oh, I'm here and they don't believe me because I'm not a professor. I'm not an outsider. So when USC asked me to become a professor, I thought, yes, because I missed the sun. And two, an opportunity will come one day where I can speak to newsroom leaders. And I'm going to tell them what I wanted to tell them, and I was trying to tell them. This is 8 years ago. I've been at USC for 5. But 8 years from the moment the red carpet was rolled out. And it makes me nervous because this is not easy stuff to say. So I find internet memes to give me courage, like this one that says, if Internet Explorer is brave enough to ask to be your default browser, you should be brave enough to ask that girl out. And it's according to Abraham Lincoln. It's on the internet, it must be true, right? And I'm going to say, talk to publishers. I know we're not publishers, we're editors. But I'm going to project, and I'm sorry to project this on you, but you're newsroom leaders. And so this is my talk. This is what got me kicked out from the previous Publisher Association. I'm really sorry for my talk. Again, that calming blue. This is a talk, actually, that is based on a post I wrote some time ago when I was told, a year after I became a professor, that an executive editor wanted to talk to me, to talk about what they could do in the newsroom, the disruptions that they were facing. And, they wanted to pick my brain. It was a former employer, and I thought, okay, now they want to listen to me. What do I want to say? And the morning of, I woke up and I wrote this blog post. And at first, I was reluctant to kind of put it up there, and then I said, you know what, I got to own this. I got to back this. And this is the quote that I put in there. I imagine myself at the bar, because we should be at the bar when we're talking about this, and sketching out on a napkin how to redesign or how to use social media. And then I look at in my imaginary monologue with this person, I look at them and I say, look, the biggest obstacle in journalism isn't whether the community trusts us. It isn't the fragmentation of audience. It isn't the disruption of the revenue crisis. It's you. Newsroom leaders, it's you. Sorry. Feel free to pick one of these reactions. But let me explain. Has anyone ever heard of the term hippo? This is a very bad business model that dominates so many cultures. Hippos, the highest paid person's opinion, right? That is very dominant. I've been in this business 30 years, son. You're on this internet thing for 5 minutes. You're right. You've got incredible experience. But to the newsroom leaders, my message to you is that we're wasting our time explaining technology to you. Where it's 2015, we're wasting our time explaining technology to you so we can get your approval, so we can do our job. The organization's digital direction should not be dependent on you understanding technology, understanding these new emerging technologies. That's not your job, nor it should be. Not knowing these technologies is okay. I'm barely on top of this stuff. It is okay not to be a master of all these emerging technologies. If you're a newsroom leader, that's okay, as long as you let digital people lead. You might have a wonderful niece or a son or daughter that is all up on this social media stuff, and they know what's up. That does not qualify you to make the business decisions for your news organization when it comes to digital. What you have the power to do is to hire digital people. Hire them and then listen to them. It's not something I hired this web nerd, they're in a corner really frustrated. And 5 years later, they became a professor. To go into Hoff and give a talk about how you should listen to that person. I'm projecting a narrative that it's me in the audience going like, preach on, brother, preach on. It's only me and you. We'll have a drink afterwards. I want to tell you, though, while we are digital, we have your values. I am a journalist first. When I was at the Seattle Times, I was critiquing our paper. And people looked at me like, what is that web guy talking about the newspaper for? Homepage or front page, it's my organization just as much as it's somebody else's. So you've got a higher right, and then you have to trust them. There are countless cases of digital journalists doing a poor job. Plagiarism was one that I saw. Someone got fired. He was hired to be the lead editor, got fired for plagiarism. That does not, plagiarism and these cardinal sins in journalism is not exclusive to media type, technology, or age. Brian Williams. This is something that plagues our industry, but you have to find the right people with those right skills that understand these platforms naturally and trust them. Hire them and trust them. Let them lead. So I'm going to thank you for letting me go off on this. I'm going to talk about some technologies, and I'm going to kind of sort of do a test along the way to kind of help me prove my point. How many of you know these 9 icons? Raise your hand if you know 9 icons. How about 8? 8, okay? Let's go over the other side. Who knows? You got to at least know YouTube, right? All right, the name is right there, so you know YouTube, okay? Raise your hand if you actively daily use at least one of these things, right? Keep them up if you actively use once a week. We'll call that once a week. 2 of these things. 3 of these things. 4 of these things. Starts to drop. 5s. I'm going to guess Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. You guys are all up in Snapchat, I can tell. So this is what we're learning. This is very much the dominant social network. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Everyone knows YouTube. Reddit, people have heard about. WhatsApp was this texting platform that Facebook bought. Vine is Twitter's 6-second thing. Slack, this is Slack, which is essential for digital nerds to talk to each other, right? So these are ones that you may have heard of. How about these? Anyone use this one? You raise your hand in the back? What is this?
Well, I don't use that one.
Oh, okay. Anyone know the purple one? It's the Yo app. Anyone ever heard of Yo app? Yo app, let me tell you what it is. All it does is say yo. You send a yo to someone, and that's it. The story goes, and I hope to God it's not true, the story goes, a businessman didn't want to call his receptionist, he didn't want to yell, he didn't want to dial her extension, he just wanted to say, can you come into my office? So he asked a tech person to write him an app that does that, so it's yo, right? It didn't come out on April 1st, but the internet saw this thing, someone wrote about it, TechCrunch or somebody, and 1 million people signed up for it. And then it dropped off pretty quickly the next day because we were tired of saying yo. Someone made, for the Game of Thrones fans, someone made a Hodor app, so all it says is Hodor. Game of Thrones people. But they're still active, and it's evolved into an API where you can do push notifications for journalism. Ta-da! Right? WeChat? Who's heard of WeChat? WeChat is the most dominant communication texting platform in China and around the world, and it does a lot more than just chatting. It does banking. It does all of this stuff that some companies are hip to and are trying to figure out how to do that, but it's mobile first. Wire, this one was interchangeable. There's so many of these that come and go. Bebo, anyone know that? Bop. These are all these social platforms that I play with as a nerd, but they're not meant for me. So for a newsroom leader, I don't expect you to know this. Yik Yak, raise your hand if you're on Yik Yak. Okay, explain what Yik Yak is, no judgment, and we'll tell you why no judgment a little bit. Yik Yak?
Yik Yak is a geographically based anonymous chat app used mostly by teenagers, 20-somethings, to talk about weed, pizza, and sex.
That's exactly right. So, but here's what's fascinating about Yik Yak. It is anonymous. There's a new trend where social media is becoming anonymous, right? There's Whisper, there's Secret, but I haven't seen so much engagement like I've seen on Yik Yak. If you're covering a college campus or near a college campus, you need to get on Yik Yak and hold your nose and avert your eyes and don't judge because they're talking about pizza, weed, and sex, sometimes the trifecta. But here's something that's very fascinating. They're also talking about news. And what the heck was that shooting about? And I just saw the cops over here in this corner. I've seen news break in Yik Yak long before Twitter and God knows how much earlier than news, right? Now, weed, sex, and pizza, why would I bring that up? Well, Facebook started on college campuses. Chances are y'all on Facebook, right? So would this be the next Facebook? I don't know, but it's something that I find very fascinating, right? And I've played with it. It is not for me. My yaks, as that's the term, if you got used to tweets, these are called yaks, get voted down because clearly I'm not of the ilk to participate in that. The student jokes about professors, though, are classic. They're actually really good. There's really some funny stuff in there. I tweeted out one earlier. One of the reasons why I won't write a textbook. One student, not my student, or not my campus, I hope, said, professors who write their own textbooks and force students to buy their textbooks for their class is like my friend pushing their mixtape. You got to check out my mixtape. I'm awesome. These are emerging social platforms that come and go, and one day they're 1 million, and then you think, what's the point of that? I've learned over my career to stop asking why, but to be open and curious and experiment. I have the time to do that. That somehow became my job. I'm very fortunate. But this is just apps and software. There's also hardware going on. There is, Google Glass, RIP, of course, smartphones and tablets, but wearables are coming, Oculus with virtual reality, Arduino, sensor journalism, and drones. Right? This is hardware that's coming, but there's even more stuff coming with Microsoft announcing the HoloLens, the Mayo armband. There are some rings that are gesture control. There is a 360 rig camera that I'm trying to get so I can do cinematic VR for journalism. There's just more and more and more amazing technology coming. Who's heard of the Google Smart Contact Lens? Anyone heard about that? This is a smart contact lens that it's for diabetics. It measures your sugar level and lets you know. Let me recommend not get the first version. Get the second version in case it heats up and battery or something like that. There is all this stuff, right? So while there's the Oculus Rift, Google came out with the Google Cardboard, which converts your phone into a VR head mount display, right? We live in the future. Do I expect the newsroom editor to know this? No, that's unreasonable. But I expect a digital person that is living in this world to know how to balance the emerging technologies and the core values of journalism. They're the ones qualified to lead when it comes to making decisions. They shouldn't be wasting their time trying to convince someone else of why this is legit technology, right? I'm not even going to talk about programming and programming languages. Right? I'm taking a Python class. I don't know JavaScript or Ruby. I can hack it together when need be. I know HTML and CSS. Anyone know this program? This is a new one called Swift from Apple to allow them to do apps, right? Node.js, this is for other nerds. Anyone know the Octocat? GitHub. GitHub is the social network for nerds where you share your code with the community, very open source. It's the culture of the web, right? I would not expect an editor to know this stuff, or a publisher. I expect the digital folks to know this stuff. Again, that's why they need a lead. Now, let me kind of show you an example of Snapchat. I made that joke earlier. Let's go to Snapchat. Let me give you some fun facts about Snapchat and some examples. Snapchat has got over 100 million active users. That's not counting the accounts that are created and then abandoned or used less than once a month. It's active users. It skews towards women. Roughly 70% are women. For those who's not used Snapchat before, it's okay. So Snapchat, let me explain it essentially, is like texting but with pictures and really awful drawings that expire within seconds, right? You set a timer and they get deleted. Why am I doing this with air quotes? Because it turned out they weren't deleted for the first couple of chunks. And if you believe there's privacy on the internet before with an NSA and all the news that's come out, there's no privacy on the internet. There's no privacy in digital. And anyway, the people send snaps to each other, and other generations would say, those kids today are sexting. No, they're communicating and making horrible jokes. Seems horrible to me because I don't understand them. But there's a lingo and a culture and a language that is theirs that I barely wrap my head around. I do not expect my newsroom leadership to understand, right? The users of Snapchat send over 700 million snaps a day. That's 8,000 snaps a second, right? It is quite active. The average user checks his or her account 14 times a day. God, why don't they engage with our news that many times a day, right? 50% of the users are 13 to 17. The median age of the Snapchat user is 18. I want you to remember that number. Median age is 18. The median age for Facebook is closer to 40, right? So this is a social app that expires. You can send content, poorly drawn pictures, make jokes. It's like texting, and it expires. You can do videos. They've started to do cash, Snapchat Cash. You can send people money through Snapchat. They also started, if you haven't heard, something called Snapchat Discover. What they did was they invited media companies to come, and they gave this place, I don't know how much money was exchanged, but they gave this place to these select media companies so they can offer their stories, their content. And if you notice, a couple of them are news. Vice and Comedy Central are among them, and they are natural fits. Vice has that tone, right? It has that swagger. Comedy Central, not news, although sometimes people get each other confused. One of them is more news than the other, and now that Jon Stewart is leaving, I guess Vice will be the dominant news one. So their voice fits in perfectly for an 18-year-old demographic. It's also video heavy, right? But here's one from National Geographic, a visual magazine, right? This is an animated GIF that I took from someone. And it gives you that tone. It is using that vocabulary, still very much traditional to their brand, but they're bringing their experiences to the Snapchat audience. This is one from CNN. Not a super fan of it. What they essentially did, they have an opening kind of animation, and then it just plays video. So they took their video and they put it online there. I call that shovelware, right? And then there's Yahoo News, right? This is a digital company. This is digital first, right? What was the median age for Snapchat? 18. 18. So Yahoo News, digital company, says, well, okay, we're going to go to Snapchat. We're going to get to these kids. We're going to offer them our news. I got it. Let's get Katie Couric to read them the news. Someone somewhere at this digital company thought, you know what these 18-year-olds need? Someone as old as their mom to read them the news. I'm not making judgment on age. I'm making a judgment on that call. That is bad. And she has really bad puns. Like really bad puns. And not so Winter Wonderland. Oh. That doesn't even work on the Today Show anymore. That's a digital company. Bad, right? That's not knowing the audience. That's not knowing the platform. That's not knowing and understanding the culture. That's not understanding the vocabulary of that audience. That's a decision from a newsroom leader, a hippo, who's like, you know what? You shouldn't. No, you shouldn't complete. No. Let digital people lead and make that choice, right? This is one from the Daily Mail, a newspaper. They have a nice opening animation. They have those cute stories that those kids like. But then they go into a text article. A text article. It's long. This is pictures that expire in 3 seconds is the default. 3 seconds. 30 inches, 3 seconds. The math does not add up. No. That is bad. That is really, really bad. Well, okay, so here I am picking on us, our industry. Well, who's doing it right? Who has a brand that might be kind of stuffy, but is doing it right? LACMA. This is a museum, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. This is a museum with classical paintings, beautiful sculptures, fantastic, historic pieces of art. And they jam on Snapchat. They have the tone down. First thing first, I'm the realist, right? They look at pictures and they add great captions to it. I'm sexy and I know. Soldier Boy? Anyone do the Soldier Boy? No? All right? No? All the single ladies, can you not? Right? Here's one that I saw and someone was lucky enough someone gave me they captured the video because this expires. I wrote to LACMA, I'm like, can you give me this video? And they're like, no, it expired, dude, that's Snapchat. Look at this, this is a video that they have. Sunglasses coming down. Deal with it. Who knows the deal with it meme? This is a meme on the internet, it's one of the older ones, right? So when they have this voice, right, they're making this, is this appropriate for an 18-year-old audience? Is it connecting and making that art relevant to them? It's tapped in. Was this a hippo that made that call to do Soulja Boy and Beyonce references with art in the background? No, it was not. It was a young person who understood the vocabulary and knew how to communicate, were communicating with their friends, but they were able to have that balance between the Snapchat vocabulary and culture and the brand, right? They were able to connect those values of the brand. They were trusted enough to represent that brand and serve that community and merge it with the other, right? They knew their audience because they were a part of that audience. You've got to let digital people lead. And that's, for me, one of the greatest examples I've seen. It's hilarious. It's fantastic. So I also want to talk about one of the reasons why is you want digital people to lead, because the adoption rate to things is astronomical. It took 38 years for radio to hit 50 million users. 50 million users for radio took 38 years. TV, it took 14 years. And the internet, it took 4 years. iPod, 3. Facebook, it took 9 months to reach 100 million users, and then iPhone apps reached 1 billion in 9 months. The adoption rate is quick. This stuff is moving fast, faster than ever before. That's how Yo can pop up one day and now change how we can interact with our users, right? For a nerd, right? For a geek, for a digital person, this is our life. This is how, well, we're going to go try this thing out. Let's go try this thing out. I'm now making animated GIFs with memes, right? You're going to see on your Facebook a meme very soon about this epidemic that is plaguing our country, which is Target baskets. You will see this. I'm telling you, and you will think of this. I'll just tell you what it is. Right now, apparently in Target, they've got this ramp, this kind of container where you take out the plastic, baskets that you carry around. Apparently, and there are multiple photos from different Targets documenting this, that if there's one Target basket left, the people take the rack and are wheeling it around. There are no wheels at the bottom of this rack. They're dragging and scraping this metal rack around because they think it's one of those. It's an epidemic. I hope Obama addresses it. That's going to be showing up in your... BuzzFeed's going to write about it tomorrow, and then it'll show up on Facebook, right? So we have this technology is constantly evolving, and it is changing our culture for better, for worse. Here's one of my favorite stats. I actually think it's conservative and kind of low. It says that 91% of Americans, and I think this is global, have their phone within arm's reach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Raise your hand if your cell phone's alarm clock woke you up this morning. Me too. It's the first thing we look at when we wake up. It's the last thing we look at when we go to sleep. Somehow our spouses, significant others are okay with it because they're doing it too, right? No judgment. This is the world that we live in. It's on us all the time. That's essentially a wearable, right? You panic when you leave the house when you don't have your phone. Like, oh my God, I got to turn around. You do the math. I'm going to be late, but my brain. If you left the house with a wallet, without your wallet, nah. Well, it's going to be a bad day, but I'll survive, right? The speed and the intimacy with this device. Globally, there are more cell phones than there are toothbrushes in this world. The UN came out with a study that says more people have access to a mobile phone than they have access to a working toilet. This is a global piece of electronic device that is so intimate with us, right? And it changes our journalism as well. You guys know this story, the Boston bombing. This person took a picture and tweeted it out when the second bomb was going off. This person here, David Green, was fleeing the scene. Let me point, he's fleeing the scene. There was a terrorist. Let me take a picture of that. I got put on Facebook. I don't blame him. I would have done it too. I probably would have done a Vine and live streamed it. But this is our world, for better, for worse. This is where we are, right? And the authorities knew that, and they said, hey, we know you took a bunch of pictures. Can you review your photos and see if you can find the suspect? And David went and looked at his Facebook, and lo and behold, there was a suspect, right? I show this picture because it does change how we consume our story, how we create content. But let me show you this. What is she clutching there? Is that a newspaper? No. Is it the radio? No. Is it a computer? Is it a laptop digital guy? No. It's her phone, which is all of these things put together, right? This is the culture that we're in, for better or for worse. And those digital people are immersed in it, and they have the values of journalism. So let them lead. It's okay for you not to know this stuff. It doesn't mean that you can't learn about this technology, or you shouldn't learn about it. You definitely should. It just means that the organization's digital direction should not be dependent on you understanding it. We're wasting time trying to convince you of Snapchat being legit, even though it might be gone in 6 months. We got to get in on it. We got to experiment with this. If we want to survive, we've got to play in this new space. And it's Snapchat today, yo tomorrow, and God knows what's next, right? This other part of this new era is this role of being both a teacher and a learner, right? This is something that's very much of a web culture. For me as a professor, I don't like the dynamic that I'm the professor with all the knowledge and my students better listen because they paid a lot of money to know how awesome I am. And there's going to be a quiz to make sure they're paying attention about how awesome I am. Their grade depends on it. I don't like that dynamic. It's the same old dynamic of, I'm the newspaper, and you have the privilege to read my content. Don't talk to me. Just read it, and you're welcome. No. I dealt with those phone calls, too. Some of our readers are crazy. I'm not going to lie. But we serve our community. It's this back and forth. It's very much the social media, being social in social media, that back and forth. And I prefer my classes to frame where I'm just a facilitator. I got some answers. Some of them I just Google, right? But let's learn from each other. I feel confident and comfortable with what I know and what I don't know. So when some young punk kid tells me, like, Hernandez, you don't know what you're talking about. The new thing is yik yak. Well, tell me about it. And if I were in your shoes, leading a company, leading a newsroom, I wouldn't be carrying myself as an authority on something I don't know about. Empower those people. They're there. I was there in the newsroom, really frustrated. I know countless people who left the newsroom, became a professor, left the industry, crossed over to the PR, or are still there in a very abusive relationship. We're all, for the record, in that abusive relationship. You're like me, we're suckers. We're suckers because we give a damn, because I give a crap of my community, because I'm a defender of the First Amendment. I can make more money doing something else, but my God, it's not as fun. to make that difference that we do. I'm happily a sucker to be committed to journalism. My students are too. That's what's fantastic. It does not end. The next generation is coming with the same values, right? It's still coming together. So what can you do in your newsroom? As newsroom leaders, I'm projecting that on you, as newsroom leaders, or not even as newsroom leaders, as participants in journalism. It's about culture, and you're an active person who shapes culture, an active participant, right? There's this quote that says, culture eats strategy every day. Culture eats strategy every day. I don't care that you named your company, and I'm not picking on them, but it's just perfect for this. I don't care that you named your company Digital First. That's just a name. If it's not in the culture, it's not going to last. Oh, it didn't last. Thunderdome was killed, right? If it's not part of the culture, it's not going to last. It's just talk, right? So you have to actively participate. Again, learn about these technologies as long as you're not the obstacle to implement these technologies or experiment with them, right? Participate in that culture. So let me give you an example of how you can do that for free. I'm the product of a newsroom. I know my resources. My specialty is free or damn cheap, right? So here is a URL I want you to write down. I'll take a moment. I'll drink some water. bit.ly/tech and tools is a page that I've curated for about 5 years. Collection of different types of tools and technologies that lead to about, I think I counted over 125 different free or damn close to free or freemium apps or pieces of technology that come and go, but are aimed to inspire you to experiment, to learn. There is no excuse. I know we don't have the resources. I know. The beauty of the web is that you can hustle and still innovate without having the funds to do so. That's what I love about the web. And here, there's no excuse. You can now play with all this stuff. Where do I find it? I'm the nerd that collects it. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer. Tweet at me. Get a Twitter account, then tweet at me. Email me, talk to me. I'm happy to talk about this stuff. But there's so many different types of technologies here for you to play with. We heard about data visualization. Oh God, do I need to know math? Well, a little bit. But there's all this stuff. There's this new platform here. I'm going to show a couple examples. Here's one called Silk. So easy, and they want to work with journalists, and it's free for journalists. Their business model is charge everybody else an arm and a leg, but give it to journalists for free. Because they know two things. One, we don't got money. Two, they know we're the influencers, right? This is a buzz term, influencer. We influence our community, whether it's in paper and pixels. We still do that, right? So this does visualizations, data crunching, all of this stuff for you for free, really easy, right? Really fantastic. The people that work there obsessively want to help. But they're a pretty cool platform. There's some stuff here like, let me give you another example. Oh, learning code. There's something called the Bento box. I think I opened it up earlier over here. Bento. I want to learn coding and stuff. Well, here, you can learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, languages I've yet to hear from. I've never heard of Bootstrap. I know Bootstrap. Mongo. All these different languages. You can teach yourself for free online, right? Let me give a couple other ones. Live stream, to do live streaming from your phone. Ustream also does that. Popcorn Maker is an HTML5 video thing where you can overlay content on top of video. ThingLink allows you to make anything an interactive graphic. You put a picture or an image or a graphic, and you can put hotspots on there to make that interactive. TinEye allows you to fact check a photo. You upload a picture and it goes across the internet to see if that picture existed before. So someone said, oh my God, this snowstorm is so bad. I took this picture right now, but you find out it's a picture from a year ago. This helps you verify that information. Viclone is multi-camera videography through your phone. All these different types of things that are on here, from data to infographics, 360 panoramas. This thing puts captions on your videos, social media geolocation, augmented reality, timelines, just a whole bunch of stuff. What you can do for free right now in your newsroom to make a difference in culture is to pick one a month and bring the staff together and say, we're going to nerd out on this, right? Geek out. A friend of mine at CNN called it Tech Tuesdays, right? If you have some budget, buy some tacos, make it Taco Tuesdays or pizza. Just bring people together and let them do that. And, the digital folk can definitely lead, and maybe they're the moderator or the MC, but a really fantastic thing that I stumbled on with my students is I used to say, like, here, let me give you a tour, let me show you this stuff. Now what I do is, like, you pick one of these, and you're assigned to present to the group what this new tool, I'm happy to help you, but you do the research on this tool. Explain what it is, test it out, think about how you would apply it for journalism, or not, how it works and how you would like it to be better, critique it, and then present it to the group. Every time I have my students do that, whatever tools the students pick, those are the ones that they hear. Could be me lecturing again, saying like, you got to check out this thing or the other. No. When they do it and teach themselves, it's part of that culture, right? That fosters that culture that we're talking about. That fosters the digital culture in our newsrooms. Don't tell me that we don't have the money for it. I know we don't have the time. That I don't disagree with. The Daily Miracle, feeding that beast. Someone said feeding the goat. I didn't get on that train. I don't buy that one. But that beast, she's merciless. But we all got to eat. Allegedly. Even during elections, we have really bad pizza. And we have a good time doing it. But get to know these technologies. Play with these technologies in an informal setting. And have everybody there. If you guys could be the choir. And if it's me preaching to the choir, then we're huddling together, and one day they're going to listen to us. One day we're going to get invited by a publishers association, an editors association, and you're going to tell them the message that we've been talking to each other in the corner. Why don't they listen? So I'm here, and you are here, and we're going to make a difference when it comes to digital journalism. And it's not digital journalism, it's journalism. But the digital folks have that lingo and that culture baked in. Let them lead. Let them help you lead. So here's another example. It does cost money. This one costs a little bit of money. Some are free, like WeChat. But instead of let's get together once a month, once a week, let's focus on one thing for a long time. Let's focus on something for a few months. If we can afford it, let's buy a drone, or rent a drone, or buy a drink to someone who has a drone. And let us play. How could this change our industry? How can we use it? Virtual reality. Oculus Rift. Anyone know how much it costs, Oculus Rift, this immersive VR headgear? Anyone want to guess? Google Glass was $1,500, not including tax. That was $1,650. Thank you to my dean for paying that. Oculus Rift. Guesses? $350. $350. You could afford that. I could barely afford that. I have a 6-year-old. He's got a lot of demands. $350. So it's immersive. So this one here is Samsung. And Samsung partnered up with Oculus Rift. And you take their Note 4. And you pop it in here. And essentially, it's the phone this close to your face. But they have these lenses right there that changes the focal point. And it is, excuse my language, fucking amazing. Okay? My speech is almost done. And we will line up and you can do this. Or you can do this one for $20. Takes your phone, pops it in there, and it is fucking amazing. Right? It is immersive experiences. You're in space. Holy shit, I'm in space. And you're looking around. It's amazing. Right? $350. I'm trying to figure out how does that scale to journalism? How do we afford to get in this game? Right? Gannett has done some stuff with Dan Pacheco at Syracuse. Gannett has created at least 2 experiences so far. One's called Harvest of Change, which is you're walking around a virtual farm. And the other one was about a world championship ski something in Vail. And while I applaud that they're doing it and they're playing, they're doing it. Some of the stuff reminds me of Yahoo News and Katie Couric. Okay, but I hope they catch on fast, and I'm going to do my part to help kind of come up with different drafts of VR journalism. What I'm looking towards is trying to buy some GoPros to string together to do cinematic VR. That's where I'm tipping my hat, I'm tipping my hand, and saying that cinematic VR is something that we could scale and do, right? So that's something I'm going to give some more talks about that down the road. I need to just test some things out. But yeah, we can play with that in a little bit. But buy the Apple Watch and figure out what the hell do we do with this. I remember, and I'm sure you do too, when the iPhone came out and nerds bought them while folks addicted to their Crackberry were like, never. Well, you keep that iPhone. It's got a keyboard. Doesn't have a camera though. And I remember when the smartphones came and the nerds were playing with it and going like, oh my God, this is it. It's everything. We've been waiting for this. And the newsroom bought one iPhone for the newsroom to share. And breaking news, it's not part of your workflow. It's in a box. It's in this cabinet that's locked. Nick Provenza has the keys to unlock it. Just go. Nick's in the bathroom. You know how long he takes. Now, finally, this is more important than your laptop. This is the essential piece of journalistic equipment, not only for consumption, but for creation. We can talk about that if you want. But I'm not sold that a smartwatch is going to replace these phones. I do believe wearables will replace all this stuff. And Google Glass, it did look douchey, I don't deny that. But a mobile head-mounted display with a video overlay, that's gonna happen. When it puts into my glasses, so these glasses are just part of the cameras right there, it's gonna change the game. And we, as content creators and storytellers, need to be there, right? I put on Google Glass not because I wanted to look cool. I took one for I might have cancer on the side of my head because of battery pack, right? I took one for the team. I took it for journalism to try to figure out what the hell does this mean. We could talk about that. I had a class about it. We created POV stories and some unique experiences. That's what you got to do. If you could afford one of these things, that Hernandez guy. All right, let's buy an Oculus Rift. Let's take turns putting it on. What could we do, and what would it take to do it, right? Invest in one of these things and spend time on it, right? I just read an article. I forgot what it was, what company it was, but they banned email for a week. God, don't you wish we would do that? They banned email for a week, and they said, you must use Snapchat to communicate at work. For 1 week. Commit. No email, all Snapchat all the time. And it allowed everyone to understand, like, I get it now, right? It changed their culture. They now understand. It is, was it Yahoo or Facebook? I think it was Yahoo, where they didn't have smartphones. So it was not a mobile-first company, even though they were saying, like, the mobile, it's here, it's the future. Yeah, but, I just got my BlackBerry, and it's got the buttons. Man. So they bought, everyone, you're using your phone. This is our gift to you, but they knew it was an investment, that if you use the mobile phone, you will understand how to consume mobile content, and therefore that influences how you create and present content for the mobile community, the mobile perspective, right? That's what you should do. Experiment, invest, teach code to demystify it, not to be a coder. Not everyone needs to be a coder, but we're going to make it a requirement. Also tipping my hand, I hope I don't get in trouble. We're going to make coding a requirement in our core curriculum, right? And it's not about like, you're going to be the best coder and you're going to get, no, it's going to make you stand out more on the resume, no doubt. But coding makes you understand in a different way. It does a couple things. For me, what it does is when you get that error, you're like, oh my God, I broke the internet. What do I do now? I got to figure it out, right? That mindset of like, I got this error message. What did I do? Okay, let me try to figure that troubleshooting. That's like when my reporter goes to someone and they say, I'm a reporter, I'd like to interview. No, I don't want to talk to you. What are you going to do now? And then you got to hustle and be charming, or you got to find an alternative source, right? You don't go like, oh, I guess my editor will understand. They didn't want to talk to me, right? That type of mindset, that translates. Coding is essential. Coding is the Trojan horse that gets people to think in a different way and works in a variety of different ways. Demystifies and it empowers and it gets you to think of what is possible. When you put this on, your brain, when people put on Google Glass, people's brains were like, I can see how I would use this, right? That's what we do with coding, and you can do that in your newsroom, and there's no excuse because there's someone who knows coding in your newsroom. You just have to listen to them, and then you have to empower them. And just put on a workshop for free. All this stuff, that is free. It does take time. Slack is free, but as it scales, it costs more money. But Slack is the instant messenger it's the ultimate instant messenger for the newsroom, where you can do Dropbox files and link to pages and drop things. It's really fantastic. Another one that I think is HipChat, but everyone is telling me Snapchat. I use that for my class. It is a fantastic workflow thing. So there's stuff for you to play with. It takes a little bit of investment, but it's worth it. And I'm going to tell you, because the internet loves cat gifs, you're going to be nervous, and you're going to jump, and it might not go so well. And then you're going to keep going, and you're going to think, I feel funny trying this out. What am I doing? But you're going to get better, and all of a sudden you're going to be a cat that can slam dunk, right? And you're going to be, I love this, it's not a cat, but it's this pig that is so happy. It's just running around, oh boy, yay. When it clicks, when the light bulb goes off, when you start to understand that culture, you're going to get comfortable. It changes the way you think, and it changes your reporting in a good way. It changes how you engage with people. Look, I'm a product of the newsroom. Our morale. One of the things our editors and managers aren't good at is morale. Give them training. Give us training. Empower us to lead. Changes the game. You know, I'm a sucker. I would not take a raise, but if you heard me, if you listened to me, if you were able to empower me, I'll stay in your newsroom. If you don't, I'll go somewhere else. And the industry has changed since I was in it because people are smart enough to hire those folks. There might be a digital person here. There is a digital person in your newsroom, I guarantee it, who's frustrated as can be. You better listen to them or they're going to bounce and go somewhere else. There are probably digital people here in this room. And if you're not listening to them, someone's going to be smart enough to hire them away from you. And you're going to miss that opportunity. Help make that culture. Yes, you can. You can even. Not you can't even. You can do this stuff. And I feel like hopefully I didn't burn any bridges. But thank you for allowing me to talk for this long. And let's have one of those reactions. But let's now open it up to questions. How much time do we have? Till 10:30? 10:50 or 15? 50? 15. Thank God. Jesus. Okay, good. Questions? Yes, sir.
So you're describing somebody that we don't have them, but we know this person. Right?
You have them.
He's the biggest nerd. Okay?
Okay.
He doesn't want to make a lot of money. He's quiet. He's really.
He's a super sucker. We're talented coders that give a damn and are in our newsroom.
He wants to figure it. He knows all this. If he doesn't know it, he'll go and do all this crap to figure it out.
Yes.
Right? So where do you start with somebody like that? We have an organization that we don't have anybody like that.
I need more information. What's your organization? What's the hierarchy?
Newspaper group. We have a lot of websites.
Okay.
We're weekly paper, bi-weekly papers. You know, we're not very big, but we have no technology people that can do. When you say code,
Totally.
my mind, right? So we don't have anybody like that. But this guy loves all this stuff.
You have that guy.
What do we do?
So you say, what would you like to do? Our stuff is lacking.
We don't even know. I don't know what to tell him because I don't understand it.
Hi, my name is. I don't know what the hell you do, but you know something I don't. Here's what you do. Hi, my name is. And you interview them. You're a reporter. And you figure out their story, and then you realize, I don't know a thing you said. Teach me. There's something called, a friend of mine created this term called FOOL, friend of the online. Become a friend of the online. Right? And then realize, I don't know what you said. You should probably be more in charge. Try to figure that out. But there is 2015. Right? The learning curve, there was a learning curve of learning technology and all this emerging stuff. No, You got people that you can hire right away that are from journalism schools or in the journalism industry that are doing this stuff. They're not teaching themselves. They know it already. So you can invest in someone and have them grow, but that's 2015. You should be doing this already. It's 2015. You can invest in them and have them grow, or you can hire someone and maybe have that person mentor this person and have them grow faster. It's all about leadership. You have to invest in that. So I'll tell you my career. See, what can I share? I'll share the positive side right now. I have a new director of my school. I was hoping that she wouldn't mess with me. I'm a nerd. Just let me do my thing. But she's been fantastic. And she's hired more people, so I'm not alone. Right? I've spoken to other digital journalism professors as well, and the same narrative of digital people in the newsroom where they're like, hey, that's digital guy. You're on the Twitters. People know you. You're internet famous. No one cares. But you're over there. We got a digital person. They're in the back. It's like diversity. We got a person of color. We've got women. We don't have to listen to them, but they're hired, right? It's the same type of thing. You have to empower them. It's not just hiring them and then putting them in a corner. You have to hire these digital folks. So I'm very fortunate that my boss has hired other digital people, and we're not alone, right? Go to the Online News Association conference. There's a ton of people. And I'm not kidding when we're talking about suckers. If a newsroom called me up and said, we want you to come back to the newsroom and lead, tough guy. Lead, I would go. My wife would kill me. I'd probably have to get a pay cut. But my goal was to be a professor for 2 years, now 5, till I got back into the newsroom. And I'm waiting for the industry to catch up, and it's done some leaps and bounds and really fantastic things. The Washington Post was considered to be the most innovative media company by fast. I'm not sure I agree with their list, and I know friends in the Washington Post. And I'm sorry, the New York Times and the Washington Post, you better fucking be the most innovative thing. You've got all the money, for God's sakes. No excuses. You should be being more innovative than what you are. But, hey, Bezos is there, so that's changing culture. Go back to, I'm sorry for the rant. You have to empower them. You have to make them have a voice. Give voice to the voiceless. Doesn't that sound familiar? One of those things. Other questions? Hopefully I didn't scare you. Questions? Call bullshit. It's okay. By the way, as you know, I'm a product of the newsroom. I tell this to my students, so I have a tendency to cuss when I'm really excited. So I apologize. Again, I'm sorry that you... Other questions? Yes?
Going back to Katie Couric and Yahoo.
Yes.
How much is that driven by Yahoo saying we want these people to advertise unless we have Katie Couric reads the news, they're not going to do it?
That's a really fascinating thing, and I don't know the inside scoop about that. I don't know, but my guess was, and I read an article that hinted at this, that Marissa Myers, the CEO of Yahoo, had made some decisions on her own. She met someone, and she just hired them, gave them a lot of money. She says, I like this person. Let's give them a job at a high position, and it's backfired a couple of times. And I'm projecting nothing. This is my guess. That she met Katie, and Katie is a powerhouse. She's amazing. Katie, after the Today Show, Katie's had some really challenging career moves that haven't panned out. And it is a miracle that she ended up at Yahoo. And I mean, it was the most, she's a veteran, she's a legend, but that's not, why would you do that? Why would you give her millions? I think they gave her like $200 million to sign her, or something crazy. I'm making up that number, but it was a lot of zeros. You can get people who are doing news on YouTube that have a following a lot more than she does in this digital space that automatically have an audience on Snapchat. And the digital advertiser, I'm going to say that the digital advertiser's not going to be the one that says, like, I'm not going to give you money unless you have Katie Couric. Right? They might have, but that is shrinking real damn fast. What the smart digital advertiser is going to say, like, hey, you got Katie Couric. How many followers does she have? Oh, well, this kid is charging me $5 so he can tweet out a promoted tweet, and he's got 1.2 million followers. I'm going to take my business elsewhere. Right? That's the tricky part. I think, in my opinion, although mad respect for Katie, that was a bad move from Yahoo. And the Snapchat for me, when I saw that, I was like, oh, God, game over. Yahoo, I'm sorry. That was a new one for me. Yes.
I'm a little embarrassed to ask this.
No, please.
But what does that smartwatch do, and how would you apply it as a report?
Good question. So think about back in the day, our first phones, and we were trying to figure it out, right? I will admit, when the first when the first phone got a camera, it's a Motorola Razr for me. I was like, who the hell is gonna? This is never gonna work, right? Who knew there was a whole bunch of people wanting to take pictures of their lunch, right? And put a vintage filter on it, right? I have learned over the years to not go convince me on this technology. I will openly admit, I'm a super fan on Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time. I run a weekly chat called WJ Chat. You should check it out every Wednesday, 5 p.m., 8 p.m. Pacific. We talk about our industry, journalism, digital journalism, and everyone is welcome. All points of view, students to veterans. We have a conversation on a certain topic. We did newsletters last week. We do law, we do jobs, we do recruiting, programming, all that stuff. I've learned on Twitter, a friend of mine, he's now at the Washington Post, was the head of social there. TJ Hortensi would be like, hey, I'm going to do this Twitter thing. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Just man the front page. If news breaks, you better be on it, right? And he convinced me to do Twitter, so I did the Motorola Razr, and I sent a text message to Twitter. And I'm like, what the hell is this? This is stupid. And then I got TweetDeck, and my eyes just opened up, and I got it, right? So my approach to technology is through the prism of journalism. How can I have this apply to me? So right now, I'm going to say the watch is more for the consumption, right? So here is this thing. Believe it or not, if I'm going to tell you smartphone versus Google Glass to take a picture, you're like, okay, let me get my camera here and unlock it, or do a swipe, aim, take a picture. With Google Glass, I can just say, okay, Glass, take a picture. Or I can press a button on the side, and it took a picture. It's on me already. Or I can be really creepy and wink at you. That was really creepy. To take a picture, right? So this watch is always on, right? So I have a friend of mine who bought a Pebble watch, another smartwatch. He, like all of us, is like checking his email all the time. It's a nervous twitch. I have that. My body literally reaches out for my phone. And he got the Pebble watch, and he was talking to his wife, and it's like the email goes off. He's not getting his phone and unlocking and launching the email. He's like, hey, yeah, baby, I know. I'm sorry I was late. And he looked at his phone, and there's his email, right? The consumption of content is going to be sped up because it's always on, right? There are folks that have a camera on there. I think that's lame. I mean, I love Dick Tracy, but let me take a picture. That's not natural. What you will find, if you could, it's awkward, but I found with Google Glass or with Google, let me know if other folks are here that do Google now. If you give your life to Google, there's no privacy anyway. If you give your life to Google, it knows when your meeting is and where it is, and it tells you, hey, you better leave right now because traffic's pretty bad. There's snow coming, you might want to change your flight. It knows. We're okay when Amazon knows, and it says, like, I know you just bought that album. I'm not judging, but other people also bought this album. Or you bought this shoe, people bought this shirt, and like, oh, God, you're right. Yeah, all right, I'll buy that too, right? It's smart enough, the algorithm knows. So the watch, I think, is, for me, what I'm calling a transitional wearable. It's a natural, we're okay with this. We're not okay with this yet, right? We're okay with it on the wrist, so it's going to be a lot of consumption. I'm not sold on their design. I actually like the Samsung Android Wear. Very few news organizations have a smartwatch application. But think about it. I'm waiting at the bus. I need to be entertained. I can take out my phone and retweet, or I can just go here and swipe. I'm not 100% sure, but if someone's going to figure it out, look at Apple's track record. They're doing something right. I still doubt that one's going to hit, but I'm going to buy one to try it out and take one for the team. But here's on a personal note. This is my dad's watch. He passed away. No matter how awesome that watch is going to be, it's not going to replace this watch, right? So I might not be the ideal person, but I have to put it in rotation and try it out. That's what I do with technology. And then I'll give a talk at O&A about what I learned. But it's consumption right now. That's how I would look at it. Thank you for asking that. Other questions? Other questions? Yes.
So there's all these options for what we can learn.
So overwhelming.
So, is there any good way to learn what our community uses and learn that first?
So our community is quite big. Community like your audience?
Yeah, so we're from Vermont and maybe a less tech-savvy population.
Sure. Sure.
Maybe not. And I was just wondering, like, if there are apps or different things that would be more beneficial for us to try in first
Sure.
before we start experimenting with, like.
Yeah, all the crazy stuff, right? Yeah. Social and mobile are the most dominant, right? So you can look at Twitter has search that can look, and you can look by zip code. Banjo is a good app that takes in all the social networks, so Instagram and Twitter. You can see around you what is happening. Yik Yak, of course, for the younger audience. And your community is not just one. I mean, the demographics and gender and ethnicity all kind of comes together. Black Twitter is different from, the Twitter that other people see. It's just different humor, just all the stuff coming together. So one of the arguments of hiring a diverse newsroom, to have a diverse newsroom that reflects your diverse community, is that you're porting that culture into your newsroom, right? So your newsroom should be reflecting your community, and so if your newsroom accurately reflects your community, then you know what they're using. But I would say Facebook is always a good place to start, and social, Twitter. Right now, newsletters, I feel like I'm in a time machine. Newsletters are the hotness right now. I heard someone speak about it, and they made a compelling argument, although I don't believe it's the long term, but email is still here, and you're bypass Facebook and Twitter that's taking the data from your users, and you're taking it back. You have their email. You can have them fill out, the demographics, and then you can give them customized or more personalized experience based on that newsletter. You have all the metrics around a newsletter to make better business decisions. So that's one that if you haven't noticed, more and more people are doing that. A good newsletter, there's two really good newsletters I like. One is API, American Press Institute's newsletter. Who signs up for that one? It is, they bought me a drink because I knew someone there, and look, we're giving away coupons at ONA for a free drink if you sign up for the newsletter. And I'm like, I really need a whiskey right now, so yeah, I'll sign up for your damn newsletter. It was a really good move. Their newsletter every morning tells us a snapshot of what our industry is up to. And then another one, completely different, is Alex Madrigal's 5 Things. He's been busy at Fusion, but before that, he was at The Atlantic. He's got something called a tiny newsletter. That's the tiny letter. And it's just 5 things, 5 reads. And those are 2 different types of newsletter approaches. You can do a search for the hashtag WJChat and go back to Wednesday, and you'll see people talk about different types of newsletters. That's a good one to start. I saw another hand earlier. Last question, I guess? No, yeah, last question.
That was me, the PK Florida thing. Who's to say it's not going to become the next Betty White?
Do you want to put a couple $1 million bet on that and hope that... Look, I grew up with Golden Girls. I know, she wasn't on Golden Girls. Why did I say that reference? But she could be. She did have that, what was that, prank show?
Yeah.
It didn't last too long. So, yeah, possibly. One could only dream, right? So, thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you've gone from the real world to the academy. Diane Lynch just has a paper out that was commissioned by the Knight Foundation.
Yes.
A few days ago.
Yes.
About how journalism education has to change.
Yes.
From the perspective of USC.
Yes.
How do you balance theory? And how do you think journalism education has to balance practice and theory?
I think USC is way ahead of the other schools. And I did not know that. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse to go back to a sunny land compared to Seattle. And I was like, all right, let me. I didn't pull any punches, and I gave a similar talk. And they're like, we want you to be here. Our faculty is dominant in professors of professional practice, non-tenure track. I'm non-tenure. I don't consider myself an academic. Someone coined the term hackademic, and I align myself with that. I don't write papers. Thank God I don't have to write papers. Other colleagues do, and they have bigger influence in the industry while I'm giving talks and workshops and tweeting things. But it is that convergence of 2 different schools coming together. You got to think about what the hell you're doing and the meaning of it, but you also have to do it. right? And that's that balance. So I look at a lot of schools are struggling. A lot of schools are struggling to hire people who know how to do this stuff. A lot of fantastic professors are doing the best they can. They go to my workshops. There's something at Pointer called Teachapalooza that I did for the last 2 years. And I talk about how you bring coding into the classroom. Just incorporate WordPress instead of Blackboard. Little tips like that and how to do assignments to kind of get them more digital. But at some point, you got to have a digital faculty member, and you have to listen to them. Because that narrative, I met other digital lone wolf faculty people, and they're like, oh, that's so-and-so, the digital person with the head in the clouds, but they're doing their thing that I don't understand. We've changed a lot. It started with the hiring of me. The position was created because the students stormed the director's office and said, these are wonderful faculty. They're trying to talk about digital, but they have no clue, right? So you need to hire digital folks, and that's what led to the creation of my position. But it's this tension point, too, because tenure versus non-tenure, in the academic space, tenure has more clout, right? And so that has more clout with the provost. They don't care about our craft and the professional craft. So there's a bit of a tension there. I do think, though, there's a lot of people who bash J schools, and there's some, J schools that need to catch up. But there's some good ones too, and not just the private ones. Community colleges are kicking ass as well. They're doing stuff, they're innovating. You don't need a ton of resources to innovate, unless it's an expensive piece of equipment that costs $8,000 to get a 360 camera rig together. That's where I go hat in hand to my dean. I'm like, look, it'll work out, trust me. But it's just, it is that tension point. And I'll probably share too much again. I was in a curriculum meeting, undergrad. I'm actively participant. That's something I learned in academia. Service is a third of my job, actually 20%. But I'm on every committee. I do, hiring and did admissions and merit and then curriculum for grad and undergrad. And in one recent undergrad one, I had to lose my cool and be like, there's nothing digital about this curriculum. We need to do this, this, and this. And they're like, all right, convince us, what is it? My digital faculty colleagues presented, and it was a done deal. We are now going to try to, it's not approved, so it's not a done deal, but I'm hoping and holding on to the fact that coding will be a core required course, just like reporting, just like video, writing. It's a part of the core of what is modern journalism, whether you practice digital journalism or not. And other schools need to adapt to that. That's the thing. The goal is what, 2025 or something like that to have, oh my God, it's 2015. Your school should be doing this stuff already. My school is behind, and we're one of the innovative ones. But it's a bit of digital culture. It's having the faculty and then having the will to do it. And I will tell you, some students are really traditional, where they're like, my favorite quote on the first time I taught my Intro to Online Media course, I asked, because I remember that's what professors did on the first day of class, what would you like to get out of this class? It's a required course. I didn't know the difference, a required course, and one student's like, I hear it's the future or whatever. And that is my slogan for my class. It is the future or whatever. So it's just having that kind of, baked in and getting people to kind of convince the students are thinking, I want to be Katie Couric. Katie Couric's awesome. I want to be in front of the camera. I want to be, on the red carpet covering sports. I want to write for Vanity Fair. And then I have to tell them, like, we can all dream, and it could happen to you, but have a backup plan, because journalism is a complicated place, and you have to have digital skills now. So the conversation is different, but it's pretty exciting, I think. Thank you guys for putting up with me. I don't know how this state is, but I'm disclosing that I recorded my screen capture, my talk, and the audio, and I'm going to upload it, if that's okay with you. So I'm going to put it out there. So thank you again for inviting me and not uninviting me.
What will the URL be?
I'll tweet it out, but it'll probably be, my blog is blog.webjournalist.org. Thank you.